entire family, including aunts, uncles, cousins, grandparents. We've encountered odd things throughout our lives. Not sure if it's a ghost, angel, demon, or what we've all separately experienced is something different. I plan on posting them, but I'll start with my experience as a kid. When I was 6 years old, I remember having the same dream every night for months. In the dream, I'd wake up and I'd look under my bed to glowing eyes staring at me. Then I'd be chased by this tall, dark figure. Every kid has nightmares, but what was scary is when I would wake up, I would hear a man whisper my name.
Elizabeth. Elizabeth. Elizabeth.
In my ear. I still honestly remember the voice. It was calm and monotone. I'd get out of bed to look around the house and see who's calling me, and whenever I looked in the kitchen, the clock on the oven always said it was around 3 a.m. Then, I'd make my way to my parents' room and ask if they were calling me, and they obviously weren't, and I'd end up sleeping at their feet. My mom said she remembers me waking them up every night. That's my first experience, and it's kind of creepy, but I never thought it was that deep until I learned so much more about my family members and what they've experienced. It makes me think that maybe the voice wasn't just in my head. When I was around 11 years old, my parents got a divorce, and that meant selling our house. I had the choice to stay with my mom or my dad, which, by the way, it's a really shitty choice to give a kid, but it's fine. Long story short, I chose my dad because I didn't want him to live alone. I knew my mom would be fine. Plus, my mom would probably just end up picking me up a lot of the time anyway, so it felt like the better of the shitty choices. So my dad ends up moving into a mobile home park, somewhere further than my mom, just outside of Fresno, in a little place called Clovis. The mobile home is nicer than I expected to be. Right away, I could see that I had my own room. I wasn't sure my dad was going to even think about that sort of thing in his mad dash to find a place. You could tell that old people used to live here. The coloring on the walls, blush tones, floral print, thick shag-like brown carpet. That weird old wood paneling covered the walls in all the places that weren't covered in wallpaper. The only place I'd seen anything quite like it was my granny's house, and she was old, so old people. I set up my bed and decided to go cruise the little neighborhood, see what the deal was as far as other kids go. I noticed almost immediately that it wasn't just my dad's house that was old school. Every single one of his neighbors, they had to be in their 60s or 70s. I get to the end of the loop, pretty quickly learning that there's just one exit in and out of this place, which seems like some sort of hazard or something. I turn my bike around, and standing in front of me is a super old woman, wearing nothing but a nightgown. A filthy one at that. She scares the crap out of me, and I jump back a bit. She takes a step towards me, and before it registers, she disappears. I don't know if I blinked or what, but this woman just vanished. I power biked it home to my dad's, and I ran inside. He's telling me to stop slamming doors. Something about taking off my shoes. Like, what? He's not even a shoes in the house kind of guy. But I comply, while not taking my eyes off the window to the outside. I tell my dad straight up, some old lady really just disappeared in front of me. It sounds insane leaving my lips, and my dad laughs. While walking into the other room, he says over his shoulder, "Yeah, everyone here is pretty old. Old is scary, huh?" He keeps laughing, even after leaving the room. Judging by how dismissive my dad was, not worried. I decide, okay, so I definitely didn't see that. Like, I made it up, and that's crazy, but maybe that's something that happens sometimes. The sun was going down. I would have told myself anything to believe that a scary old woman didn't disappear in front of my eyes. And of course, something happens as I'm getting ready for bed, and of course, it's terrifying. While my dad and I are watching TV, I keep feeling as though something is moving around in my room or watching me. Like the light from the outside was shining through the bedroom window, and I could see the light through the side crack in the door. But every couple of minutes, something would block that crack of light, as if someone was standing behind the door. Without much thought, I start to head towards my room to see what this trick of the light was. I go to open my door all the way and it stops, like something really is behind it. I turn to look, and as I do, I see something standing before quickly disappearing, causing me to sort of fall into the door and down a bit. There was no longer something behind the door. My dad asks me, what is it with me and doors, and telling me to leave it alone. So I just decide to close the bedroom door and keep watching TV. I want to ignore this, but I can't, because now I can see the light being blocked from underneath the door. Again, as though someone is standing on the other side of it. I tap my dad and I ask him, doesn't it look like someone standing in my room? And I pointed to the door saying, look at the light. He's watching, but nothing happens. I tell him to wait because it will, so he does. It's still not happening, but of course, right when he looks away, it happens. Someone moving on the other side of the door. I tap my dad, and as I do, my bedroom door handle moves slightly, the way that it would if you were opening it from the other side, followed by it immediately opening very slowly until it was fully open. A huge piece of me wants something more to happen so my dad can witness it with me. And like it could read my mind, the door starts to close, ever so slowly. I grasp my dad's arm and I ask him what the hell that is. And he sort of lets out a sigh or a gruff, saying, well, obviously you falling and hanging on the doors isn't good for them. Guess you get to have the wonky door in the house. Sorry, kid. Was this man serious? Not even remotely rattled at a door opening and closing by itself? I tell my dad I'm not sleeping in that room, and he tells me like hell I'm not. He didn't splurge on 2 bedrooms just so I could sleep in the living room. So that plan goes out the window. Bedtime. I remember that night I prayed. It makes me chuckle because I wasn't like a religious kid. Sometimes my granny would make me go on an occasional Sunday, but that was it. However, when you're desperate, God seems like about the only option. I was asking for kid shit like, please don't let any old ladies in my room. Please let me have cool dreams. Stuff like that. Going to bed, I kept my window shades open and my door cracked so that I could have some light. I actually fell asleep pretty easily, but then I woke up. At first, I just laid there, wondering why I felt weird. And then I realized that the room was pitch black. The curtains were closed, my door was closed, but also, someone was with me. At first, I just felt their presence, but then, the feeling of someone climbing into bed with me, the covers being moved, the bed indenting slightly, and a horrible sound. It was like someone struggling to breathe through mud. I still hear it in my head sometimes. I have nothing to relate it to outside of this experience, but I just laid there, keeping my eyes shut tightly. I knew I wasn't paralyzed, but I was still afraid to move, so I screamed. It was the loudest scream I think I've produced, but oh, did it work to get my dad's attention. He comes crashing into my room, and to my horror, he shouts, "Who the fuck?" before quickly turning on the light. I hop out of bed and over to my dad. He's still in some sort of state of shock because he doesn't immediately embrace me. It's only after I say "Dad" over and over again through crying that he looks down and proceeds to pick me up. He shuts my door and takes us both into his room, where we spend the rest of the night. It took me a while to fall asleep, but even when I did, my dad was still awake. I don't think he slept a wink that night. He never made me sleep in that room again. He actually made me stay with my mom while he looked for somewhere new to live. He never told me exactly what happened, what he saw, just that he didn't like that place. But I got the scoop from my mom when I was older. She couldn't wait to tell me because she loves that spirit stuff, ghosts and everything. My dad, he saw someone laying in my bed, but he saw someone standing over me too. But more, he saw them everywhere. Multiple shadows or figures standing in my room, most of them close to me. It was scary enough, all of it, but goddamn, I'm glad I never opened my eyes.